Welcome back to Pathshala, the program in Japanese, paper 05, that is communication through translation,翻訳を通じての communication. We are into module 12 now. It's the fourth part of concepts and techniques. The module ID is JPN P05M12. The content writer remains the same. Acknowledgement, you can see Preeti has helped in data collection and the base work during the OTTP course, and we have fetched some examples from the TR club, the translation club students classes. Let's recapitulate what we had done in the previous module. We had talked about unit in the previous module, and we found that unit is a strong tool for translation, focusing or focused approach. And the unit is more than a word. It can be an expression, it can be a frame also. Unit level corpus creation is a flexible phenomenon because depending upon the individual, the perception and even the justification based also, one component can be divided into or can be looked at into total as a unit, and as a part of that also goes as a unit. And creation of the corpus is an ongoing exercise. Unit level equivalence familiarity, that means once you have got your own units or the units which you have come across and you have yourself used them, once you are familiar with those equivalences, it eases the pressure, and the focus, because your pressure has gone, shifts to capturing the structure accurately and even understanding the content better. Unit level equivalence together with the application of 5W1H approach helps in improving the accuracy, and this happens even without following the frame capture and transfer approach. Applying 5W1H and capturing the frame as well as transferring it accurately and also capturing the unit, this will add readability to accuracy, and sometimes you can even do much better in terms of style also. In this module, we are talking about equivalence for the compound terms in Japanese, and there are multiple elements, that is primarily kanji compounds with no particles in between, and the second part is deciphering the elemental relationship at two levels, that is inter-element and intra-element. The objectives are professional pursuit, that is to read the relationship among the constituting elements, use and confirm the established mechanisms, going deeper into the relationship among the constituting elements, and try to upgrade or update the guidelines and techniques, then put the final one into use, that is their application, verification and further updating. Outcome expected is again the same, grooming the scholars of translation who could deliver value-added free translation, who could help in generating realistic theories through practice, and trainer's trainer. Let's see some examples. The example is Shohin Ryutsu no Kasoku, and the first translation is rapid product distribution. The second translation is acceleration in distribution of goods. Both seems to be fine, but let's see further. Let's see some examples to understand what we are talking. The example here is Shohin Ryutsu no Kasoku, and the first translation rendered was rapid product distribution. Second translation was acceleration in distribution of goods. Appear to be fine, both appear to be fine, but let's see one by one. First translation 1. If you see the behavior of the elements here, Shohin Ryutsu no Kasoku, the Kasoku is getting translated as rapid and it is going in the beginning. That means there is a issue of selection of equivalent and the transpositioning taking place. This transpositioning, you can say, is taking place because of no. But if you see the English equivalent, the no is not getting translated, so no is dropped here. If you see the translation 2, Kasoku is getting translated as acceleration, which is a closer equivalent, so it's a equivalent choice, and transpositioning is taking place again. It is going in the beginning because of no. Then Shohin Ryutsu Again, there is a distribution of goods. So distribution of goods means off is coming in between here and order is getting reversed, that is shohin getting after ryutsu, and no is getting translated as in here. We'll talk about it in detail. Let's do this through the analysis of first translation 1. The hint comes from the particle. The role this particle plays is the connector role. Shohin ryutsu and kasoku, it is joining the two. When we do the segmentation, we find shohin ryutsu is compound term, which is, let's say, compound term 1 and no, and the second is the term 2, that is kasoku. Now intertranspositioning takes place, it becomes kasoku of shohin ryutsu. This is because of no. That means the term 2 of term 1 or compound term 1. Now see the elemental equivalence. Kasoku is getting translated as rapid, whereas shohin ryutsu is getting translated as product distribution. It can be goods distribution also, but product distribution, and no is nowhere, it is getting dropped. Let's do the same analysis or similar analysis for the translation 2. Again, the hint comes from the particle, which acts as a connector, and when we do the segmentation, it comes as compound term 1, no term 2. Now if we look at compound term 1, its literal equivalence is goods distribution, and kasoku is acceleration, which is a terminological equivalence. So intertranspositioning, distribution of goods, no acceleration, that is compound term 1, no term 2, and in this case no is getting translated as in, so it becomes kasoku in shohin ryutsu, and therefore the translation comes as, or the equivalence comes as, acceleration in distribution of goods. This in is coming actually from the context. Now let's see the intra-elemental relation. The example remains same, shohin ryutsu no kasoku, and the segmentation is shohin and ryutsu 2, and kasoku remains separate. Looking at shohin first, if you see, shohin can be divided into show going out and hin remains, which is goods. And if you see the other parallel examples, you have shimpin, that is the new goods, and gimpin, which means original goods. This means adjective plus noun, commercial goods. Generally shohin is called goods, maybe sometimes you call it commercial goods. If we are not talking in commercial sense, it can also be product. Then ryutsu, it has got two verbs, nagareru and toru, and in the nagareru toru, nagareru stands for flow and toru means pass through. So something flows, and by doing this, by flowing, it passes through. So the two merge, nagarete toru, and gives distribution. Distribution means it is flowing and then it is passing through, so distribution. And kasoku, it's a, you will find many such terms in Japanese where there is one verb and there is another element which is a noun. So in this case, it is sokudo kuwairu. Sokudo kuwairu changes to soku plus ka and reversed kasoku. To come to this level is, if you say katsu, it means atsuro kuwairu. Kanetsu, it means netsu kuwairu. Similarly, katen, ten okuwairu. And kasoku is acceleration. When you add soku, that means when you add speed, it is acceleration. Now final process is join the elements. This is shohin ryutsu no kasoku, distribution of goods, no acceleration. Understanding the particle y in. See parallel examples, if you see process no katsu, if you say kasoku, it means acceleration. Process no acceleration. So acceleration in process, acceleration of process is also possible. Then keizai seicho no kasoku, that is seicho no kazoku, which is keizai. Seicho no kazoku is acceleration of growth of economy. So acceleration of economy growth, acceleration in economy growth. Shakai kaikaku no kasoku, acceleration in social reforms. So nature of kasoku shows that in with an activity is quite suitable, particularly in the context. So activity no kasoku, acceleration in that activity. And that is how the first was a rapid product distribution, and the second translation, which is considered as a better translation. Of course, not only on the basis of this particular phrase which you have seen here, on the basis of the running context, the second one sounds much better. Depending upon the context, in some cases, no may be rendered as off. Rather, the users might be more even in such cases where it is translated or it is given equivalent is given as off. The comprehension of intra-elemental relationship, then inter-elemental relationship, equivalence gives you better accuracy and better readability. Let's see another example. This is Iyaku, then Chukan, Genryo, and the first translation was intermediate medicine material. If you see carefully, we'll see it further in detail, but if you say intermediate medicine material, at least there are 3 elements is to 3 elements. And the translation 2 is intermediate raw materials for medicine. Somewhat explanatory. The number of words is much more than the number of words in original. In fact, this is what stimulates you, or what indicates to you that in original there are 3 elements. In the final there are more than 3 elements. This means that there is some elemental relationship in the original which is defined with the help of some other words in the final to make it more explicit. This can also be understood that in Japanese it is understood when it is written like this. The original in this case was Iyaku, Chukan, Genryo, and the equivalents were in the case of translation 1, intermediary medicine, I think it should be intermediate medicine material, and the element behavior is selection of equivalent. There is a choice because if you see, it is intermediate is fine Chukan, Genryo is raw material also at times, and Iyaku, we'll discuss about it, is used as medicine here. Then transpositioning is taking place here, and if we look at the translation 2, it is intermediate raw materials for medicine. So intermediate raw materials for medicine is quite explicit. Here first is transpositioning taking place. If you see, the Iyaku is in the beginning, so Chukan, Genryo is intermediate raw materials, and Iyaku goes at the end, that is medicine, and for comes from outside. So for is added due to the reversal of elements. Let's do inter-elemental relation analysis for the translation 1. This is what we had: Iyaku, Chukan, Genryo. Iyaku, Chukan, Genryo has 3 elements: term 1, term 2, term 3. When it was translated medicine intermediate material, that means term 1, term 2 and term 3 as it is. But what was used was intertransposition 1, that is term 2, term 1 and term 3. Chukan, Iyaku, Genryo was the order in which it came as the final equivalent. The elemental equivalence was intermediate medicinal material. It is intermediate equivalence, elemental equivalence for the intermediate, then simple equivalence, and then the contextual equivalence. Let's address the issues in inter-elemental relation analysis of TR2. If we see that the translation done is intermediate raw material for medicine, and this much segmentation remains the same as it was done in the case of translation 2. But when we come here, the literal one is medicine intermediate raw material, but what was done here was interpositioning, that is Chukan, Genryo, for was added for Iyaku, and term 2, term 3 for term 1 is the sequence. Elemental equivalence is intermediate raw material for medicine. Here also the first part is simple equivalence. Then the next with the simple equivalence is repeated here, it is once only. Then next is for, and again simple equivalence. Now intra-elemental relation, let's do the analysis of the constituting elements. See, Iyaku, Chukan and Genryo can be broken down into further components. Iyaku is E plus Yaku, and E means medicine and yaku means drug. When put together, the noun plus noun consolidation, it renders medicine, which is the most acceptable equivalent for the two. In the case of chukan, chu and kan, if you see carefully, it is chu stands for in and kan or ma is span. So it is mano naka, that means intermediate. There is a particular span in the naka, inside the span is intermediate. And genryo, genryo is something plus ryo. The parallel examples could be shokuryo, chomiryo. Shokuryo means food material and chomiryo is seasoning material. That means material remain constant. So adjective plus noun, raw plus material. So gen stands for raw, or gen is translated as raw. It could be crude, it could be original. Here it is raw material. The final processes, the possible combinations could be medicine, intermediate, raw material for iyaku, chukan, genryo respectively. If we look at the other examples, it's for example iyaku chukan is medicine intermediate, iyaku genryo is medicinal or medicine raw material, and chukan genryo is intermediate raw material. So if you see different combinations, it gives you a sense how you should try to formulate the final equivalence. If you see, in every case, all are referring to raw material for medicine. It's raw material for medicine. It could be material for medicine or raw material for medicine. Let's analyze to understand it better. Chukan genryo is adjective plus noun, and the parallel example are kagaku genryo. Kagaku genryo means chemical raw material, and for example kihon genryo is basic raw material. So in both the cases, you will see that kagaku is standing as serving as adjective, kihon is also serving as an adjective, but within the genryo also gen is serving as an adjective, and chukan genryo can be a single compound, which means intermediate raw material. So intermediate is acting as an adjective and raw is also acting as an adjective to the material. Now intermediate raw material for medicine, why for is coming here. From previous possible combinations, iyaku no chukan genryo, so it's iyaku no something, so of medicine. Literally it should be of medicine. More specifically, iyaku no tameno, that means meant for medicine, that means for medicine. So as compared to of, this is more appropriate, and of may actually give a different nuance. Translation 1 was intermediate medicine material. Translation 2 is intermediate raw materials for medicines. The learning here is that comprehension of intra-elemental relationship and inter-elemental relationship. Once you get the equivalence from this process, this gives a better accuracy and better readability. Let's ascertain the same thing through another example. This is the example which we have done in the previous module also. So you are already familiar with this example. It's denshi shinwa ryoku no shuki naini yoru henka kekuwa bazkadearu. The first translation, as you all are aware, there are few tendencies which are changed according to the period of electron affinity. English seems to be quite smooth, but actually there is an issue. The second translation is electron affinity shows a slight trend across a period. Now this second translation is actually final translation, and if we see the elemental behavior here, denshi shinwa ryoku, the translation is electronic affinity. If you see carefully, the denshi is selection of equivalent, that is, it can be translated as electron or electronic. Here it is electronic. The shinwa ryoku is affinity. There is a merger of shinwa and ryoku in the final equivalence. In the case of translation 2, denshi becomes electron and shinwa ryoku is affinity merged. So denshi is actually merger of the two, that is electron. The teki part which was coming, or the electronic IC part which was coming, is actually getting merged, and affinity is getting affinity, also chikara is getting merged into shinwa to give affinity. Electronic affinity, let's do the analysis of this TR1 first. Denshi shinwa ryoku, the order remains term 1, term 2, term 3. Denshi is electronic and Shinwa plus Ryoku merger gives affinity. Elemental equivalence is electronic plus affinity and electronic affinity. Let us address the issues here. Analysis of translation 2 would be, first is same as one which was done in the case of translation 1. Simple equivalence, that is term 1 Denshi, term 2 Shinwa, and term 3 Chikara or Ryoku. Denshi is coming as electron and Shinwa plus Ryoku coming as affinity, that is term 1 is electron, that is all, and term 2 and term 3 are getting merged. Elemental equivalence is electron affinity, that is contextual equivalence plus simple equivalence. Let's try to see the intra-elemental relation through the analysis of constituting elements. The example picked up is Denshi Shinwa Ryoku. Denshi Shinwa Ryoku when broken into segments will come as Denshi, Shinwa and Chikara, that is Ryoku. Denshi further is Den is electric or electric and Shi is Kodomo, and electricity plus child makes the concept electron or electronic, but electronic will come based upon the context. In the case of Shinwa, it is Shin, that is close, and Wa, that is harmony. So familiarity and harmony, the two merge and give affiliation. Chikara is it is Kenryoku, that is political power, Jitsuryoku, that is actual power. So Chikara is power, but this power or strength remains true for Chikara. Noun plus noun is power plus its ability, and when we mix the two, that is Shinwa and Ryoku, it comes as affiliation plus ability or affiliation plus power, making it affinity. The process is joining the elements, that is electron affinity. Understanding it further is Denshi as electron or electronic. Usually electronic should have Teki with it and electron should be without it, but this rule is not followed everywhere. By doing this process, you have understood the formation of this word much better. If we see the translation 1, there are few tendencies which are changed according to the period of electronic affinity. So Denshi is getting changed into electronic. In the case of TR2, it is electron affinity. So Denshi Shinwa Ryoku is electron affinity. Comprehension of intra elements and then the inter-element relationship, it gives, if we fetch the equivalence through this process, it gives better accuracy and better readability. The learning of this particular module is that when translating, identifying most suitable word or term equivalence is very important. It determines the quality of the output. The pressure eases on the trans-communicating resource, that is the person who is translating it, helping him or her shift focus on scholarly pursuit of translation. Inter and intra transpositioning of constituting elements of terms and compound terms brings in closest equivalence. Once you have reached the closest equivalence, your accuracy improves and the readability obviously will improve. It results in the professional output. That means it helps you become a professional or enter into professionalism. The references were the CPCI theory and also the examples which were taken from OTTP trainees. Thank you so much. See you again in module 13, and we will discuss about this elemental relationship again in detail through some other examples.